Greetings all, BWS2K here again with the next entry in our Mythical Marrow series, Recollections, that we're doing. I've updated the title screen to reflect the fact that she has 4 XP, and we'll keep those there. And we will zoom right ahead to our Mythic setup. So, we added the new character Leech into our character list. The chaos factor didn't change because the last scene was a flashback, and we pretty much emptied out the Doom pool. Didn't feel appropriate to raise it, but it didn't really feel appropriate to bring it down because in the present, Marrow is still captured, and there's still bad stuff going on. We basically siphoned off the Doom pool for an epic showdown between Nimrod and Cable, which I was really pleased with the way that ended. Our threads didn't change, although I was thinking I might update those now that we've got some new leads and we've made some headway into the narrative. It might make sense to revisit those, but we're not going to do that right now. So we set up the scene. Having just had a flashback, we resume with Marrow, who appears to be healing and recoloring despite the collar and presence of Leech. So I want to kind of, we left last time with her appearing to heal despite the fact that she should have her power dampened by the collar and Leech. Or honestly, I don't even remember if it was that the collar should be dampening her or if it was just Leech, if it was just a normal collar that she had on. I apologize, I can't remember. I'm not going to bother about going back and checking. We don't bother with little things like that. This is Marrow. Everything is a beautiful mess, right? That's in the spirit of the character. But regardless, it's a surprise that her powers are still working. And I know throughout comics, she had been depicted sometimes as having pale skin, like not bright pink skin. And I don't like that. I understand the character choice and blah, blah, blah. But for our Marrow, she has pink skin. And so to be clear, I think the fact that it's coming back, the fact that she still has mutant powers despite the dampening field of Leech, I don't think it is outside of her control. I think it's just kind of like surging back a little bit and then kind of recedes as time goes by. Because when we start out this scene, she's going to look normal or depowered. So my thought was that she needs to break out, and she needs to sneak out, and she needs to take out lots of sleeping rogues. Maybe they're in bunks and sleeping bags and things like that throughout the tunnels, and then confront their gladiators, who would be like elite warriors. I'm picturing like sentinel armor, cool weapons, makeshift weapons still, but like based on parts, more upgraded things. And by the end, the lair will have been reclaimed, and the alley, which is of course where they are, will be restored to Morlock control. And I put shattered chrome, glass, and flames will reveal carvings in the ceiling. And this will be like the ceremony of light. So that was my setup. That was my pitch. That was my idea. The scene got modified for an interrupt, and I decided, so I kind of jot everything down, right? The context is everything that's happened. What we ended up doing was introduce a new NPC with the event meaning, action and event being inform exterior factors. So my notes were, my heart just says that we just went from 2 Morlocks, right, Leech and Marrow, to having lots more. Maybe they also were trying to return and were prepared for a fight, right? Because it's not necessarily a bad NPC, it's just an NPC. Only to arrive just as Marrow has actually done their job. Like they were staging a fight to take back the alley, and they show up and Marrow's like just picking her teeth with a bone knife or something like that. She just did their job for them. But then I was like, well, maybe since it's informing exterior factors, maybe it's not informing them of exterior factors. Maybe it's exterior factors being informed of them. So maybe the whole thing is being surveilled or recorded. And so I kind of like went back and forth. I thought Callisto could be cool, but then Dark Beast is a really big part of Marrow's character, at least her origin in a sense. And I thought maybe that's what we're going to do. So I kind of sat on it for a few days, and then decided that since the plan was about restoring Morlock control, I think we can have some of them join Marrow and have the whole thing being watched by Dark Beast. And that feels to me like that checks all our boxes. I think we can just have other captives be discovered, and so there's a little bit of a team thing going on. And I kind of liked that vibe. So I made some more notes there, added to our notes. A lot of this, if you haven't picked up on it so far, a lot of this is just brainstorming and throwing stuff out there. And as I've said multiple times before, I don't plan ahead too much because the fun part for me is what the dice playing off what the dice do, and sort of improving in a sense. So we come to our scene, a very minor write-up, which I'll read for you. A crowd of rogues, and there's no. Do you remember when we did the Mythicals scene where there was no spoken dialogue, and I really like that, and so I think that's what we're going to do here. A crowd of rogues surrounds a central arena, so it's kind of like a fighting pit, and there's just bleachers or makeshift chairs standing, and they're all just like, cheering and shouting. A seemingly depowered, collared Marrow is dragged in and dumped on the floor to the sound of jeers. Of course, we would have to see Leech chained up somewhere, maybe on like a pillar, like a raised dais or day, depending on how you say it, in the middle of the pit, presumably dampening her powers. So she does not have her bones sticking out. She does not have pink skin. She, still looks, I think, bruised. They probably would have beat her up some, bringing her out, and it's not necessarily right away after our last scene. So maybe some time has passed. She's been beat up and she's sort of taken it. Maybe an eye is swollen, a cheek is swollen, arm is, maybe bleeding a little bit, got a gash. And of course she has her D6 trauma still. So her left hand, I think it is going to be just like a weird bone nub, kind of on her, like starting at the wrist, like what you would think of when you think of like a pirate spike or a hook, but like no hook, just like a spiky ball of bone. From a large door opposite her, sort of on the other side, a heavily armored opponent bursts through the wall. And, I imagine the scene in Aliens where Ripley is in the exosuit, the lifter, and kind of like it's sort of backlit, right? And this person comes out, and I think they're wearing not just like hubcaps and things like that would make sense for the rogues, but also bits of Sentinel, maybe the helmet, maybe they're wearing a helmet that is like a hollowed out Sentinel head, just bits and pieces. Oh, I guess okay, maybe we can do that because Sentinels are huge. But you understand what I'm saying. Bits and pieces of Sentinel technology, and of course the word rogues and all kinds of graffiti all over as well, right? And this is like, this is a big person, this is a massive person, maybe augmented by some of the armor and such, and so the cheers roll out, and yeah. You understand where I'm going with this. So we've got two scene distinctions. We've got Rogue Arena and we've got Packed Crowd. Our Doom Pool I reset to 3d6 because that's kind of like the default. That's kind of like what you do when you don't have a Doom Pool. And I think we have enough narrative wiggle room to be able to say that we exhausted the Doom Pool and we're moving on to a new crescendo of Doom, so to speak. So we've got the two of them in there. And again, no dialogue. It's all just implied. No text or anything like that. And right off the bat, the gladiator is going to come across and just like wail on Marrow. This is obviously not a killing blow. This is about entertainment, right? And I should say it's Rogue Gladiator, built more or less as a minor NPC. The stress is just for when they get stressed. So they have a D10 for that. That's like their I forget the word, but that's what they have. Rogue Gladiator D10. They have two distinctions: blood-stained, so the armor, it's got the rogue and the graffiti and stuff, but it's like rusted and it's got obviously signs of combat, and this is the second distinction, reigning champion, right? The same two traits as the rogues, but now instead of D6, they're D8s: makeshift weapons and makeshift armor. And then I gave them an SFX called improvisation, which is to step up dice added to the Doom Pool via purchased opportunities. So when I buy an opportunity that Marrow has rolled and I add to the Doom Pool, I can actually step up the die that I add. So I can step up a die like normal. So if there's 3d6, right, and Marrow rolls a 1, I can do the normal thing of make that d6 into a d8, or I can add a d8 directly. So it doesn't affect if I'm stepping up a die that's already in the Doom Pool, but if I'm adding dice to the Doom Pool, they go in as d8s instead of d6. And then we have Combat Expert and Menace Expert as some specialties. So it's a decent pool, and against Marrow, I think it'll go well. And of course, they'll be rolling with an extra d6 from Marrow's trauma as well. And she's got her plot point. Her sheet is still the same with the note that says, "Don't forget the bone hand." But let's go for it. So I imagine this is a kick, right? Like a kick right in the guts. and sends her reeling against the wall. So really her reaction to this, she's not going to be dodging or anything like that. She's just going to be taking the hit, but we'll roll to see how bad it is. So the Rogue Gladiator is 1d10 plus, let's do 1d6 for Marrow's trauma before we forget. Bloodstained Reigning Champion. Yeah, Reigning Champion, that's a d8. This is makeshift weapons. Maybe the boots got like spikes on it. And then Combat Expert. Is that all of it? Yeah. I wanted to make sure that, since it's only one character, I wanted to make sure that they had a decent number of dice to make it a good fight. And this will be to do physical stress. Hey, that's not bad. So Rogue's action total is, we can do the 8 and the 7. Easy cheesy, right? That's 15 with a d8 for physical stress to Marrow. So Marrow's reaction, such as it is, solo die, and 8 is the engine, 9 the machine, X more like I think we're gonna go with Rogue Arena as a D4 because she's slamming against the wall and being kicked by the champion. That feels like that fits, and that's gonna get her a plot point. By the way, I was looking at how to spend XP, and 4 XP doesn't do anything super fancy. 5 XP is where we can do some cool things. So if we can get a D12 and spend a D12 out of the Doom pool, that'll be cool. So D4 for the distinctions. Bad to the bone. Now, I'm describing her as kind of giving in to being depowered, so I'm actually not going to allow any of the bad to the bone for this reaction roll. But we'll activate those powers soon. Combat Expert. So this is probably going to hurt pretty bad. Yeah, that's going to hurt pretty bad. So Marrow's reaction total is 8 with 10 effect. So the D10 effect does step down the incoming D8 to a D6. However, 8, I guess it doesn't matter because 15 is a critical, or not critical, but extraordinary. So she would actually take D8. So the incoming 15 compared to her 8 steps up the D8, but then she steps it back down. Is that how that works? It'd be a D10, but then she can't step it down because hers is smaller. Oh, okay, maybe she takes D10. It's fine. It's fine. Let's do. So when it comes to how this works, you only get to add 1, stress or trauma. So from now on, they'll be adding 10. However, it's now her action. So, you know, the gladiator just boots her into the wall, smashes into the wall, maybe some splinters, and she falls down to the ground. And you know, as the rogue gladiator is doing like the pumping the fist pumps and getting the crowd going, I think imagine the shot panning from left to right with the gladiator doing the fist pumping and getting the crowd revved, and in the background you see Marrow in one shot in the left, she's depowered, and then as it pans right, and maybe in like a triptych or something, she starts to get pink splotches on her skin and bone nubs start to show up and poke through, and it's like, aha, somebody is in for more of a fight. A squeaky chair. More of a fight than they bargained for, right? So she stands up after there's this moment of realization, and probably like, don't they like spit a tooth out or something like that, spit out some blood off to the side? We were watching Arcane recently, and Vi is a character in there, and she does a lot of boxing and is like very physical, and her sequences are really, her fight sequences are really great and really what's the word, they're really impactful, they're really well done, you really feel visceral, that's the word I'm looking for. But before she fights, sometimes, you know, like sometimes in movies they'll crack their neck or something like that before they get into the fist fight. So I think it's something like that. she has that moment, and then the gladiator is just like taken aback for just a second, but then it's like finally a challenge, right? So then they start to go at it, and now it is Marrow's action. And what Marrow is going to attempt to do here is just stress. And by the way, this minor NPC has D12 stress tracks. They're just not on the sheet. We'll just keep track of it with words, but they go all the way up to D12. It's not like the mobs or the large scale threats that you take out individually. This is a full D12 stress track, just like Marrow. So she is going to, so let's see, the gladiator kicked her to the wall. So I think she's going to, do we want to go back? You know what, you got this, you all missed the mech suit. So let's do that. So she kind of like armors up, right? And then just leaps into the fray and does like a leap and then like a punch down, like they jump in the air and then they go to like punch down onto the head of the gladiator. Yeah, that's cool. So that's going to be 1d10 solo. X Morlock, X Man. You know, I'm feeling like maybe it's hate as the engine. Yeah, we're just kind of like, no, it's got to be X Morlock, X Man, because she's there as like a depowered Morlock, ostensibly depowered. We got Leech there. We're gonna go with X Morlock, X Man. I think we're channeling that a little bit more. She's not like in berserk mode. However, having said that, hold that thought. We're gonna go with Strength, 1d8, and then I think we're gonna right off the bat do, before you make an action including bad to the bone power, you may move your physical stress die to the Doom Pool and step up a bad to the bone power by 1. So we're gonna move our D10 stress to the Doom Pool. This one. We're actually going to step up that strength die from a D8 to a D10. And then I think we'll go with Dangerous. Add a D6 to your dice pool for an attack action and step back the highest die by 1. Step up physical stress inflicted by 1. So now we're going to add a D6. And we just have to make sure that we step back the highest die, which is that D10 that we just added. That becomes a D8. And then we did that. And then Combat Expert is a D8. Is that what we want? I think so. All right, so we've got an opportunity there. So here's what we're doing. We're going to buy that from her for a plot point, and we're going to add in a stepped up D6, which means a D8. To the Doom Pool. That's the improvisation SFX. But she also can easily do a 15. But I'm going to spend one of these juicy plot points and go a little bit more than that. Gosh dang it. Total is the 8 and the 7 for 15. 15. And then we're going to add 2 for 17 with D8 effect. For physical stress on I'm not sure how well they're going to defend. I think we're going to throw in Reigning Champion as a D4 and step up another one of the D6s to a D. Yeah. They're obviously the target. Makeshift Armor, that's a D8. And then Combat Expert, D8. I always assume specialties, they're always kind of like in effect. They're not necessarily blocking, but you're also relying on like how are they taking the punch, so to speak. So even though they're not actively being, engaged in combat, they are on the receiving end of combat. I figure Combat Expert works. So this is their reaction roll. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so that's 2 opportunities. We will spend 1 plot point to buy a stunt die from Marrow. The other one we'll just let go. It'd be neat if you could upgrade your stunt die when they roll 2 1s like that. But that's not really part of the rules, and we're not going to invent new rules yet. We already pushed the rules as they are. So Gladiators reaction total is 8. Got to be 8, and it's got to have a default D4 effect. So they take. So incoming was a D8, but it was from a 17, which is a heroic success for Marrow. which steps up the D8 to a D10. So they also now have D10 stress, and they do not have second wind. All right. Maybe it knocks some of the armor off. Maybe it just like fractures some of the armor and some of it just goes flying out the back. Yeah, that'd be cool. But Marrow lands on her feet and she's ready to go, and the crowd is now bonkers. And the gladiator is like, let's do this. So I think they need to have a weapon. I think they need to pull out like maybe some kind of spear. Is there a cool weapon that they could use? Maybe it could be, yeah. Maybe some kind of like, yeah, I like it. Let's go with a spear. They pull out some kind of like jagged spear made from rebar, and maybe there's like, stains on that too. And so they're gonna start to really fight like a gladiator as opposed to just a one-sided pitched battle, right? This is something they've been waiting for all their life. Okay, so let's move their token over. So 1d10 plus reigning champion. Is that going to get them in trouble, reigning champion? No, that's okay. 1d8 for that. Makeshift weapons this time, d8 for that. Let's not forget the d6 trauma that Marrow has, and the combat expert die. Yeah, okay. All right. So gladiators total action total 7 and 6 for 13 with d8 effect for physical stress. Now it's Marrow's reaction roll, and I think what we're gonna do is maybe her bone nub, maybe as the gladiator is charging, maybe her bone nub, she like starts to transform into something like a small like a buckler, like a shield, but not like super big, so it's a little bit smaller, and she's gonna try to like deflect it. We'll see how that works for her. So 1d10. She also gets to add in the 1d10 stress that the gladiator has. And now I think we're in Rogue Arena. Rogue Arena? Do we do it as a d4? No, I think it's got to be d8. I'm not going to think about it too hard. She's in a rogue arena. She's fueled by the adrenaline. Yeah, we'll go with that. And this is probably, she's going to deflect it, which is probably strength again. And we will use well, no, this is an action total, so I can't use any of her SFX, which is fine. And then combat expert. Is that right? Yeah. Oh yeah, easily. So it's a 13 coming in. So let's do this. So Marrow's reaction total is 16. We'll add the 2 8s with D10 effect. Oops. And she takes no damage and spends a plot point to counter attack for D10 stress. So she blocks the spear with her left hand in kind of like a bone buckler, and then just smashes right into the face. Maybe she knocked the helmet off last time, so now she just smashes right into the jaw of the champion with maybe it's like a boxing glove that she has, all sort of like a bony boxing glove, bone knuckles. So that D10 is actually gonna, so let's spend the plot point. That D10 gets stepped up to a D12. And now it is her turn. So I think that probably takes the rogue gladiator like aback, right? And now I think we're going to do the thing with make sort of a bone set of bone armor and make it an asset that she has. So we're gonna pause the fight, and she's gonna kind of like armor up. 1d10 plus. So we're not gonna add the d12 stress from the gladiator because it's not something that's being done against the gladiator, but it will be against the doom pool. So a d10. Hate is the engine, absolutely, as a d8. Probably strength. No, I think I did stamina when I did, because it's like she's exerting, forcing her. You know, she's used to bone spikes and knives and things, but like a full suit of armor. She's basically making a bone mech that she's going to be in right now. And then I think combat expert. Got all jaggy bone spikes and stuff. So this is her attempt to make an asset, and we'll throw in the stunt die as well. Doesn't have any plot points. This could be ineffectual. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's horrible. All right, well, Marrow's action total is 10 with D10 effect for bone mech assets. But I don't think that's going to work. So the doom pool is 2d6 plus 2d8s plus 1d10. She can't even take advantage of the opportunity. Yeah. So we're rolling against the doom pool. I wonder if I could it hurt her? I don't know. I think she just fails. Doom pool total amazing. Marrow fails. So she fails mechanically, and what that means is she doesn't have a die to represent the fact that she's armored up, but she can still armor up. So we can narratively describe her as now having this sort of like traditional gladiator suit, with maybe like a helmet that's like got spikes on it, and maybe some sort of thing that resembles chainmail, bone chainmail, and the shield. And now she's got, I was thinking claws, but maybe she's got like a bone gladius. You know, of course, all this stuff is a little bit jaggy, because that's just her style. So yeah, she's ready to go. Cool. And I mean, she's gonna get to add that D12 into her pool, so I'm not super worried about her at this point. That was some good. The point of the scene is about beefing up the doom pool more than it is having a solid fight for Marrow. So all right, so we're back to the rogue gladiator. Maybe we'll to the next round, we'll have her go first again, since we described the gladiator as sort of reeling, and now we will have her do an action, and we're going to have her maybe things are being thrown at her from the gallery, so to speak, and she's kind of ignoring that, and she walks up to the gladiator and starts hacking at the different pieces of his armor. And then I don't want to. Does she put her? Maybe puts her sword on like his throat or something. I didn't want to be like too cutthroat, and especially because she's not like in berserk mode. This was an easy fight for her. I don't know that she'd be like utterly merciless, but I think maybe she just like rips the armor off, or slashes it off until underneath is just this, you know, frightened rogue, not unlike Thunderdome, Mad Max Thunderdome, when is it Master Blaster gets the helmet, or I guess the master part of Master Blaster, or no, is the blaster part of Master Blaster gets the helmet taken off. Something like that, you know, stripping off all the armor to reveal a very vulnerable rogue. And I guess we could use the D12 stress that they have, because they're tired. They've just been beat. Obviously, they're bleeding from their jaw. Yeah, I like that. She kind of just tears through the armor, rips it off, shatters it, etc. Ex-Morlock, X-Man, emotionally immature. Hate is the engine, I am the machine, but I'm actually going to use it as a D4 because she is showing restraint, and that's going to get us a plot point back. Strength 1d8, and combat expert 1d8, and I'm not going to add berserk. I'm not going to even add dangerous. Yeah, and this is just to tip up that stress. So Marrow's Action total is 12. Is that really what we want to do? I think we want to spend our plot point, because any amount of stress is going to tip that D12. So let's do all 3 6s. 18 with D8. Press. To Gladiator. Their reaction, they're going to get to add her trauma. And their D10. And I'm going to add D4 Rogue Arena, because this is in front of their pals. They've just been kind of utterly defeated. I guess you could do Reigning Champion as a D4. Either one of them work. But we're going to bump up another one of the D6s to a D8. Armor will go as a D8, even though that's being ripped off. And then Combat Expert, D8. Although it almost feels like it should be Menace Expert to like not be scared. Yeah. All right. So their total Gladiator reaction total is 10 with we'll just make a D4 to make easy math. So they are taken out. So I think having described it the way that we described it, they are sort of like de-armored, revealed for the coward they are without all of their toys. The spear that they had, maybe that's the first thing, right? She just like knocks that aside. And this reigning champion is now a former reigning champion. It is nothing without their armor and everything. So chaos erupts in the arena. So there's this quick exchange, and now people start charging into the arena, upset at first. And then Marrow turns around and they realize they've just jumped into the arena. So not all of them do this, but they're sort of like the initial crush of like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Of course, no text, but like they're all upset. And then they have that moment of blink, blink. And now we didn't use the Berserk SFX for Marrow, but now this is Berserk mode. This is chaos mode. This is I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me mode. And she goes all out. And so we're talking bone spikes. We've got some stabbing going on. This is some PG-13 stuff right here. And we've got slashing going on, and we've got people panicking and trying to stampede down in the tunnels. And some of them, to be fair, do escape. Those that were furthest. But this is just a massacre. This is a mutant massacre, and Marrow knows what that's about. And it's vengeance, and she lets loose. And we see all kinds of like cool bone mech weapons. She pulls spears out of her shoulder, and she's throwing spikes and just all kinds of things like that. And so it's just shot after shot, panel after panel after panel of fighting and chasing down and trouncing and beating and bashing and crushing, and that lasts for a little while. However, once that sequence plays out and we see, there's probably the last panel of it is her looking down the tunnel at the ones that are running away, and she just lets them go. And we have this standing over the defeated enemy. Marrow then lashes out at the crowd, injuring many with bone spikes, chasing them from the chamber and out into the tunnels like we were just describing. But then after that sequence later, she discovers that there are other captive mutants who she frees. Maybe even Leech leads her to them, and they're cowering. And I think it would make sense if they're younger, and they're collared and shackled or imprisoned. And some of them maybe don't even have to be collared, because their mutant power might just be something innocuous that they can't really do anything, or maybe they don't know how to use their power effectively. But there's some children or younger mutants in other cells, and so together with Leech, they all of them gather up all signs of the rogues, the sentinel armor, the maybe some bodies, some banners, and just everything that the rogues, benches, basically all signs of them, and they just pile them up on the floor of the large central cavern, the big cavern. When we first entered this last time, there was like, you couldn't even see the top of the ceiling, right? It's just this big central alley, which, knowing it's the alley, it's the huge central chamber in the alley. But of course it stretches off into darkness. We can't even see that. So they just kind of have this whole pile, and in front of that pile are the artifacts from the prison, the things from previous heroes, and they're all folded and arrayed nice and neat. And one by one, the younger mutants who were prisoners file across, and Marrow hands them pieces. So this is almost like she's giving them their weapons or whatever, like for war, right? Preparing. And so we see like some goggles, Sam Guthrie's goggles. We see Hank McCoy's belt, his X-Men belt. I still think Colossus's boots would be hilarious because they're just giant red boots, and somebody's got to fit into those, metaphorically and otherwise. We see Nightcrawler Kurt Wagner's rapier that he would use, or I guess, did he sometimes use two, or was it one? I don't remember, but this is just one. Rogue's bomber jacket, right? Her big brown puffy bomber jacket. Warren Worthington's razor pinions, which we mentioned last time, those flechettes that were on the wall. And there would be others. There would be any cameos, and it doesn't even have to just be X-Men, but I like that I'm specifically calling out X-Men stuff. There could be other artifacts in the mix as well that get used to a lesser degree that we might see pop up later on, but this is specifically X related stuff going on right now. When it's all over, she grabs a small folded bundle that she kind of maybe had off to the side, and she just like I wrote switches off the electric lighting, but I assume, we talked about like makeshift lighting and all this stuff, and I think she maybe just like smashes a fuse box or like throws a dagger into a fuse box, and so the lights go out. But then you see a torch that's being lit, and she throws it over into the heap of the rogues' gear that they all have. And so she stands in front of it. And as it burns and the light level comes up, we see that the bundle that she had picked up was a sleeveless vest with a collar, which, if you know about Callisto, if you know about the Morlocks, it's kind of a symbol of their leadership. Callisto wore the vest, and I went back to look with a cursory search, and I couldn't find evidence that it is established that it's a leadership thing, but I wouldn't be making that up in my brain if it didn't have some sort of truth somewhere. So I feel like at some point someone was like, Storm, you should wear the vest now that you're the leader or something. But I correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Either way, it's very obviously a callback to Callisto and leadership of the Morlocks. And I think she puts that on. We see her in front, and it's like she's going to be leading the next generation of X-Men. However, on the very last page, that whole sequence, almost like in the Matrix, like that whole sequence, as we pull out, it's obvious that it's on a screen, which is why we didn't have any text, didn't have any dialogue, and it flicks off. And in the reflection on the glass of the screen, we see a shadowed bestial face that's just grinning, right? And this, of course, is Dark Beast. And this is where the inform exterior factors from our mythic roles peels in. So once again, we have Marrow making a debut, once again overshadowed or connected with Dark Beast. Once again, we've got Morlocks and mutants in the tunnels connected to Dark Beast. And I imagine he's just really excited at this turn of events to know that his experiments might not, in fact, all be over. Gotta love it. I don't like Dark Beast as a character necessarily. I think he's, I guess redundant is the first word that comes to mind. And I stick by it. I don't think he adds anything that you couldn't do with somebody else. And I think the Age of Apocalypse was an interesting idea, but it was the 90s and people were like, well, let's just pull over a bunch of stuff. And I think it just got really convoluted and whatever. But I cannot escape the fact that he is inextricably tied to Marrow. And so we are going to throw him into the mix now too and see where that goes. Again, I don't plan ahead. I have no idea. Our Doom Pool is getting there now. We've got a 1d6, 3d8s, and a d10, which is nice. Next scene, we'll probably be able to boost that even better and get to some. So we didn't get any XP today, but that's okay. We'll get there. I'm not worried. Which is a nice little combat scene. Okay, well, so that's it. Shortest video yet, but that's okay. If you have any thoughts, any questions, any comments, if I missed something, if I messed something up, if you have ideas about something you'd like to see, let me know down in the comments. And otherwise, I will catch you next time. Excelsior.